Guys, this is S&P 500 weekly technical analysis for the week of September 30th. Now the current movement in the S&P 500 is absolute bullish, and the same can be seen in the Dow Jones. However, there is only one problem. The problem is that even though the market is bullish, the market is trading bullish, but the S&P 500 failed to clear its trend line in last 2 days. And this is the same trend line that I have mentioned in my midweek update on September 25th. So the S&P 500 clearly failed in this manner. Whereas in case of the Dow Jones failed on Tuesday and then it failed heavily on Wednesday. And in the same midweek update on September 25th, Wednesday, I mentioned 42,260 is the mark, and the Dow Jones is expected to struggle at the trend line, and also because there was the absolute saturation in case of the Dow Jones on Tuesday. This means that Wednesday onwards, any moment, any time, the Dow Jones can give up heavily, and when the Dow Jones will come down, then S&P 500 will be forced to come down. And if you notice, on Wednesday there was very heavy fall in the Dow Jones. Now before I discuss the agenda, let me also share the numbers. If you notice, the all-time high of the S&P 500 was 5767.37 on Thursday on September 26th. Now in my pre-market update on September 26th on Thursday, before the open of the stock market, I mentioned here that the trend line level was 5757 and we are expecting an open at 5765. Once it sustains above the trend line, or if after open, if it try to move up, then 5768 is that heavy resistance level which it is going to encounter with. And the S&P 500 will come into the trend line breakout condition and will be able to 5768 only and only if there comes some support from the Dow Jones, otherwise 5768. It failed to get the required support from the Dow Jones. Dow Jones never hit its trend line, Dow Jones never breached its trend line. So the high was 5767 and my calculated resistance was 5768. Okay, now 5768, the all-time high is justified. Now comes the last question, which is also very important, because whatever is going to happen on Monday and Tuesday, it depends on the last candle which was formed on Friday. The question is that why the S&P 500 was reluctant to move up? Why the high of the candle was 5763.78 and it failed to move up any further? What was so special about this on Friday? So 5763, and if you're wondering what it was a trend line. Which trend line? The same trend line which was extending from here. This was the trend line and the level was 5763 on Friday. In my pre-market update on Friday, before the open of the stock market, irrespective of anything, SP500 will struggle at 5763. But is expected to sustain at 5763 after some struggle or after testing the 5750 again. This means that any bullish movement in the SP500 shall remain limited or restricted to 5763. So I'm going to discuss the movement in the next week, how it is going to work, where the S&P 500 will be heading to, what will trigger bullish condition, what will trigger bearish condition, each and everything in detail in this S&P 500 weekly technical analysis. So guys, if you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell icon. And if you're looking for these daily precise updates of the SP 500 every day from Monday through Friday, then you can join my Patreon community. I have given the link in the description of the video and also in the comment section. Now guys, I am going to discuss the agenda of this S&P 500 weekly technical analysis. The first point of the agenda is the S&P 500 technical analysis on the weekly chart. So on the weekly chart, there is a green candle. Okay, a normal green candle. But the most important part about the green candle is the MACD. and the stochastic RSI on the weekly chart have now turned bullish. That is the most important thing. And if you are my Patreon community member, then I think on Tuesday itself I mentioned this thing that now these are turning to bullish. If it remains green, then it will turn to bullish, these indicators. And once it happens, in that case the fear of sudden fall or sharp decline, okay, it will be out of the picture. That is why we are seeing here in the picture that on Thursday and Wednesday there were fall. However, this fall was not sudden or not heavy. Okay, so that is this is the important change, okay, that is there on the weekly chart. I will discuss this thing, the S&P 500 and the weekly chart of Dow Jones, and then I will show you that how much percentage wise it is bullish or bearish and what will be its impact whenever there comes a fall or if there comes a bullish movement. Weekly chart means the long term picture, okay, for a month or so. Second point of the agenda is the S&P 500 technical analysis on the daily chart. On the daily chart you can see a failure, a trend line failure. Okay, so through the weekly chart bullishness is there in the picture, but through the daily chart S&P 500 is still struggling, and now Monday will be very decisive if it try to move up, because if it fails, in that case there will be back-to-back rejections, the technicals will change, and a short-term decline for 2 days or 3 days, okay, will be there. I will discuss that on the daily chart. Daily chart means the short-term picture. Third and the last point of the agenda is the probable movement of the SP500 from September 30th, which is Monday, to October 4th, that will be Friday. Whatever is going to happen in the SP500, Dow Jones and in the entire US stock market, I am going to discuss that in the last point of the agenda, like what will the conditions for the bullish movement, conditions for the bearish movement, the levels, bullish, bearish, etc. And guys, once again let me remind you that all of these three sections are interrelated. This means that if I am discussing something in the weekly chart, it is also the part of the probable movement. If I am discussing something in the daily chart like candles or so, then it is again the part of the probable movement. So in general, this way I cover 20 to 30% of the probable movement, or a little more than that, in the first and the second point of the agenda, and the rest in the last point of the agenda. So that is why it is highly recommended that you should watch all of these, the three sections, in order to understand what is going to happen in the US stock market next week, especially in the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. Now guys, I am going to discuss the first point of the agenda of this S&P 500 weekly technical analysis. Weekly chart means one candle represents 1 week, not 1 day or 1 hour. Now let's first analyze the candle. But guys, before that, if you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell icon. And if you're looking for these daily precise updates of the S&P 500 every day from Monday through Friday, then you can join my Patreon community. I have given the link in the description of the video and also in the comment section. Now first comes the candle. If you notice, it's a small bullish candle, and also this candle does not have any strong characteristics which would have otherwise given a gap up open, okay, or an initial bullish movement or so. However, when this candle is seen with the previous three candles, then there are three back-to-back bullish candles, and then this means the bullish movement, the bullish sentiments. However, it does not signify any gap up or gap down open on Monday. Just the bullish sentiments in a manner that even if S&P 500 try to come down, then also it can help the S&P 500 to retrace and to move up. But the upward movement will be limited because of the trend line and because of the Dow Jones itself and because of the heavy resistance. So that I will discuss in detail in the daily chart, the next section. Okay, this is the weekly candle of the Dow Jones, and this candle is in much better shape as compared to the S&P 500, and again the same three candles. Okay, so this candle also indicates, signifies the bullish movement, the bullish sentiments, and again the same thing. Even if there comes a fall, then also the candle, and because of these three candles, there is a good probability or a heavy probability that it can retrace. It can help the S&P 500 to sustain. And last week you have seen 5733, 5720. That was all because of the change in the MACD and the stochastic RSI in case of the S&P 500. That is why it managed to sustain. That is why I mentioned to my Patreon community member that there is a 100% certainty that the S&P 500 will be able to sustain at the zone. However, there was only one condition. In that condition, the S&P 500 would have lost, but that condition never was seen in the market. So overall, through the candles, through the weekly candle of the Dow Jones and the weekly candle of the S&P 500, okay, the bullish sentiments are there in the picture. Now let's talk about the technical indicators. Clear fan out in the moving averages indicates SP500 is bullish through the moving averages on the weekly chart. Through the Bollinger Bands, SP500 is bullish or absolute bullish. Through the Ichimoku cloud, SP500 is bullish or absolute bullish. Now the most important change, S&P 500 failed here to give a bullish crossover in the MACD, but because of this candle, that is why I have mentioned that even though it's a very small thin little bullish candle, but this candle helped the MACD to change from bearish to bullish. That is the most important part. Not just MACD, but the stochastic RSI also from bearish to bullish. And now MACD, S&P 500 is bullish through MACD, S&P 500 is bullish through the stochastic RSI, and at the same time it is neither saturated and nor overbought, right? So what it means? This means that now on the weekly chart, S&P 500 has regained 100% absolute bullish movement. This is very, very significant, because now if there comes fall in the S&P 500 or in the Dow Jones, that fall will be limited. That fall will be limited or restricted. But the most important part is that even though that fall will be limited or restricted, but at the same time, S&P 500 and Dow Jones will be able to regain its bullish movement, will be able to get an intraday bullish retrace. Okay, this is the most significant thing here. Now, in case of the Dow Jones, and guys, once again, Dow Jones is just for the reference to the S&P 500. Because through the technicals, movements and candles in the S&P 500, we can understand and we can predict, okay, that this is going to happen or that will happen. But the Dow Jones help us understand whether this will 100% certainly happen or not, right? Now, in case of the Dow Jones, clear fan out in the moving averages. So Dow Jones is absolutely bullish through the moving averages. Dow Jones is absolute bullish through the Bollinger Bands. Dow Jones is absolute bullish through the Ichimoku cloud. And the change, MACD was already bullish in the Dow Jones, fine, but now the stochastic RSI has also changed to bullish. MACD is bullish, stochastic RSI is bullish, neither overbought nor saturated. Dow Jones is also 100% absolute bullish, just like the S&P 500. Now that both of these are indices, and also most likely or highly likely the Nasdaq will also be 100% absolute bullish. All of the indices are heavily bullish, absolute bullish on the weekly chart, indicates there will be more bullish movement. Any fall will be restricted or limited, and at the same time these indices can recover intraday if there will be any fall, or if there will be any special conditions because of which these indices have to give a gap down open, then also after the gap down open the indices will be able to recover. Now guys, I am going to discuss the second point of the agenda of this S&P 500 weekly technical analysis, and this is the daily chart. Daily chart means one candle represents one day, not 1 week or 1 hour. Now let's first discuss the candle. It's a bearish candle. Before that also there was a bearish candle. Before that also there was a bearish candle. Bearish, bearish, bearish. But the most important part is the failure, the trend line failure. Okay, bearish candles clubbed with the trend line failure, bearishness, means on Monday there are good chances that irrespective of any open, the gap down may or may not happen, but irrespective of any open, an initial bearish movement or an intraday bearish movement will be seen on Monday because of these two factors. candles and the trend line failure. But because we are talking about a daily candle, this is the daily chart. This means that the bearish impact will be seen mostly on Monday, or maybe a little extended to Tuesday, otherwise it will not. Means its heavy impact will be seen on Monday and then it will be over. Or if it extends, then maximum to Tuesday, otherwise not. Whereas if this would have been a weekly candle, then its impact would have seen for the next 5 days, for the entire week. Now let's confirm if the same is happening through the Dow Jones. This is the candle of the Dow Jones. Now there are two characteristics of this the candle. What are these two characteristics? Number one, it's a bullish candle. Number two, it closed above the trend line. It is just opposite to the S&P 500. That is why I mentioned that. Consider the Dow Jones when I do the technical analysis of the S&P 500, because it simply clears the picture whether whatever we are seeing in the S&P 500 is true or not. Okay. Now it's a bullish candle and it closed just above the trend line. However, there is also a third characteristics to this the candle. And what is that? The open equal to low condition of the candle. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Three bullish or heavily bullish characteristics indicates that on Monday, means it doesn't guarantee a gap up open, but it indicates that on Monday, irrespective of any open, either an initial bullish movement or an intraday bullish movement can be seen. Whereas in the S&P 500, what we have seen that on Monday, irrespective of any open, an initial bearish movement or an intraday bearish movement, just opposite to the Dow Jones. Okay. And if you notice that in last 1 week or so, the movement in the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones, okay, they were quite opposite. Now that the candle is clear, let's talk about the technical indicators. But before that, guys, if you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell icon. And if you want to learn the stock market hacks to trade with confidence and want to grab the opportunities at earliest, then you can buy these products. This is 4 stock market hacks, 8 stock market hacks, and the options trading and options strategies and premium calculator. Now let's talk about the technical indicators. Moving averages, clear fan out. S&P 500 is bullish through the moving averages. SP 500 is bullish through the Bollinger Bands. SP 500 is bullish through the Ichimoku cloud on the daily chart. And in terms of the technicals, SP 500 is bullish through the MACD on the daily chart. SP 500 is bullish through the stochastic RSI on the daily chart. And also because of the formation of these bearish candles back to back, it is not in the saturation or not in the saturated condition. And at the same time, S&P 500 is neither overbought nor saturated, right? So this means that on the daily chart, S&P 500 is 100% absolute bullish. And looking into the Dow Jones, clear fan out in the moving averages, bullish, and Dow Jones is bullish through the Bollinger Bands on the daily chart. Dow Jones is bullish through the Ichimoku cloud on the daily chart. Dow Jones is bullish through the MACD on the daily chart. Dow Jones is bearish through the stochastic RSI on the daily chart. However, if there comes just one more green candle or a thin candle of any color, then the stochastic RSI will change to bullish and it will turn absolute bullish then. But for now, the Dow Jones is 90% bullish on the daily chart. Okay, remember Monday, either a green candle or a thin candle of any kind of any color will help it turn 100% absolute bullish. And also Dow Jones is neither overbought nor saturated. This means that S&P 500 is 100% absolute bullish on the daily chart, on the weekly chart. Same is there in the Dow Jones on the weekly chart. On the daily chart, Dow Jones is 90%. Overall, considering the technicals are supporting good or heavy bullish movement. Simple. And also at the same time, this indicates that any fall shall now be restricted. And even if for some reason, because of some news or data, even if there comes a fall which is more than expected, then also the market will remain in a condition wherein it can recover. It can recover with an ease. That will not be a problem. And where it will be heading to? For now, its target will be 5790 that I've disclosed in the midweek update on Wednesday. But whatever will happen or whatever is going to happen, I will keep you posted through these daily precise updates of the S&P 500 every day from Monday through Friday, if you're my Patreon community member. And if you have not yet joined my Patreon community, then let me tell you that along with these daily precise updates of the S&P 500 every day from Monday through Friday, I also give these the stock market opportunities in the premium stocks of the US stock market, minimum 5 to 10 every week in the top 30 companies, top 30, 40 companies of the US stock market. So whenever you want to join my Patreon community, I have given the link in the description of the video and also in the comment section. And when you follow that link, then you will see that this is my Patreon page and this is my Patreon profile. And here you will notice that there are these 3 tiers or 3 levels. This is all midweek update videos. So on Wednesday, I have given you a very useful information, very important information about the trend line, the movement, the confined movement between the trend line and the lower, this support. So all midweek update videos are very essential, very critical and very important. So if you're looking only for the midweek update videos, then you can join this tier or this level. But if you're looking for all midweek update videos as well as daily S&P 500 analysis, updates, movement, levels, zones and opportunities, then you can subscribe to either of these tiers or either of these 2 levels. And guys, if you notice, many people have joined my Patreon community for last many days, weeks, months and years, and they are getting these daily precise updates of the S&P 500 and the US stock market. And they know what is expected to happen, what will be the support and resistance levels, how the S&P 500 is going to behave, whether there will be a fall or a bullish movement or so. So guys, whenever you want to join my Patreon community, I have given the link in the description of the video and also in the comment section. You can follow that link and you can join my Patreon community and you are welcome. Now guys, I am going to discuss the third and the last point of the agenda of this S&P 500 weekly technical analysis. And here I will give you the probable movement of the S&P 500 and the entire market in a manner for the next week, means from September 30th to October 4th. Now the first thing first, next week there is nothing in terms of data or so. Yes, only Friday, that will be October 4th, the non-farm payroll data will be released. And now in recent weeks, okay, we have seen a change. Earlier we used to talk about the inflation, but now we are not talking about the inflation anymore because it is automatically coming down because the economy is slowing down. That is why now the factors like non-farm payroll data, unemployment rate, okay, jobless claims, retail sales data, goods orders data, real estate data, whatever data which indicates the economic condition, okay, is heavily considered by the Wall Street and the stock market. This is why on Friday, 4th of October, non-farm payroll data will be published and it is expected to impact heavily the movement of the stock market. And this is more important because recently whatever data was published, okay, it has confirmed that the economy is slowing down. Although Feds are saying that there will not be recession, but now everyone agrees on the correction. Okay, means soft landing. Soft landing means there will not be a recession, but there will be a correction. In terms of the technicals and numbers, correction is 20 to 25% decline in the stock market, around 25% decline. Sometimes it goes to 35% also. So recession means 50% decline in the stock market. Okay. So I'm not saying that this will happen immediately and just on Monday or so. No, it can happen anytime. Okay, but once the cycle will begin, then it will complete this, the 25%, or it may extend up to 30-35%. It will complete the cycle. there will be the bearish movement, the bearish trends or so, and once that is complete, then there will be the bullish movement, the continuation of the bullish movement. Okay, this cycle, the bearish correction cycle, it might take some time or a few months. Okay, now let's talk about the technicals and the numbers and the zones and the movement. But before that, guys, if you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell icon. And if you are looking for these daily precise updates of the S&P 500 every day from Monday through Friday, then you can join my Patreon community. I have given the link in the description of the video and also in the comment section. Now, in terms of the numbers, what we know is that it failed at the trend line on Thursday. Although the open was above the trend line, it failed at the trend line on Friday. 5763 was the trend line level on Friday. Monday, the trend line level will be approximately 5768. And in my midweek update video, and also in my pre-market update on Wednesday, even before the open of the stock market, I mentioned that 5768, and this was the high of this candle. 5768 on Monday will be the trend line level. 5768 will be my resistance level. 5768 was also the high of this candle. It is very, very heavy, very, very important. Okay, so there are these three factors which are making it heavy, extremely heavy and important. This means, but this does not mean that it will hit 5768 and it will come down. Okay, if the Dow Jones remains reluctant, but the S&P 500 still moves up, in that case, it will hit exactly 5768 with like plus minus 1 point, okay, or a few cents, and then it will come down. But if the Dow Jones supports the bullish movement and also the bullishness comes through the weekly chart also, it will be able to hit and might be able to breach by a very few points. But the question is whether it will be able to sustain above that trend line or not. If the S&P 500 sustains above the trend line and closes above the trend line, first closing above the trend line comes into the trend line breakout condition. At the same time, Dow Jones will also be in the trend line breakout condition. Monday is over. Okay. Now comes Tuesday. See, this can happen on Monday or Tuesday, but whenever, okay, let's just not discuss this on Monday. So whenever it happens, whenever there comes a trend line breakout condition in the S&P 500 and in the Dow Jones, okay, and this condition is fulfilled, then what will happen? Then there will be more bullish movement, heavy bullish movement, or the continuation of the bullish movement. Very, very simple. In the S&P 500, where it will be heading to? 5790 will be the target level. Okay. Although it is very near to 5,800, but the S&P 500 might not hit 5,800. Rather, it is seen struggling at 5790 and then it gives up. However, once it starts trading above 5768, then any fall from 5790 or so will be up to this, the 5768. Okay, this is how it is going to work, and then there will be a recovery, right? 5768, 5790, okay, and this thing. But this condition comes into the picture only and only when there is a bullish breakout, there is a trend line breakout condition. Otherwise, it will not come into the picture. This means that if the Dow Jones sustains above the trend line, closes above the trend line, but at the same time S&P 500 fails to give a closing above the trend line, then Dow Jones will have to wait. And this, the bullish movement in the market will be slow. The momentum will be slow and the bullish side movement will be restricted. So once the S&P 500 also closes above, comes into the trend line breakout condition, then only there will be a situation or the condition wherein we can say that now there will be the continuation of the bullish movement, 5,800 or even beyond or so and so. Now this thing will be very, very much clear, okay, once the Monday and Tuesday, these are two candle forms, okay, because on Wednesday I will give you the midweek update, okay, the video, the technical analysis, and I will share with you the numbers, the further movement, okay, depending on what is happening on Monday and Tuesday. So then you can use that midweek update video, okay. And if you're my Patreon community member, and then you are also getting these daily precise updates that you can use, then you can use those updates and the midweek update video, and then you can trade comfortably on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday without any problem, okay. And yes guys, I forgot to tell you one very, very important information here, that as per the request from many of my YouTube community members, okay, who are also my Patreon community members, that as per their request, I have again enabled this the join button. If you see JOIN, through this the join button, you can join my YouTube community where I will share the midweek update videos. And in order to access these midweek update videos, you can go to my channel and look into this the community tab, click on the community tab on YouTube, and you will be getting these the midweek update videos. And remember guys, you can also get these midweek update videos on Patreon too, in this the first year. So if you are comfortable with the YouTube, then you can join my YouTube membership or YouTube community, and you can get these the videos there. Or if you are comfortable with my Patreon community, then you can join my Patreon community, and you will be getting these the midweek updates, and you will be getting these midweek update videos here. However, these the daily analysis, the daily updates, the daily movement, daily precise movement every day from Monday through Friday will be at the Patreon only. Will be at the Patreon only. Okay. So now the bullish side is clear. Now let's talk about the bearish side. But before that guys, you need to understand the movement is bullish. S&P 500, Dow Jones, Nasdaq, the entire US stock market is aligned bullish. Okay. Only in the short term, the market is experiencing or is seeing some struggle, okay, and is experiencing some pressure. Okay. This means that when I talk about this, the bearish side movement, S&P 500 can come down, not a problem. But whenever it will be coming down, then who is going to handle? Then what is going to handle the fall? Again the same, that is 5733 and 5720. However, from the Wednesday onwards, the midweek update videos will be exclusive to my YouTube community members or my Patreon community members only. And then as per the movement, whatever the numbers will be there, this will be disclosed only to my YouTube community members or my Patreon community members. Now, whenever there will be a fall, it will be handled by this strong support zone. What if there comes a breach? Yes, definitely there may happen a breach. If the Dow Jones remains reluctant, if the Dow Jones is seen struggling at the trend line, if it remains below the trend line, in that case, what can happen or what will happen? In that case, it can lose more. It can lose 5720, and the moment it loses 5720, it will come under a condition wherein the fall will be allowed up to 5688, including 70. Okay, 5688, my calculated heavy support level. 5670 was the previous all-time high, and 5669, just 1 point below 5670, it was my calculated support level. So let's just talk about 70, not 69. Okay, 568870, it will be free to come down to test this, the 568870. Okay, at the same time, if it loses further, then comes the last known and the heavy support and the heavy cushion. Okay, that is 56441. As long as the fall is up to this the level 568870, so remember, as long as the fall is up to this zone 5733 5720, so no matter what, it will remain bullish, heavily bullish, no problem as such. Once it loses 5720 and it fails to regain the 5720, trades below 5720, next heavy support comes at 568870. It will be allowed to come down to this heavy support level. But once it comes down to this heavy support level, the S&P 500, then this will act as the resistance to the S&P 500. And this means that even though it will be bullish, even though it is absolute bullish or heavily bullish, but it will lose its bullishness for some time. But if it loses 568870, depending on the momentum, then it will be coming down to 564431. This is the last known strong support, strong cushion. Losing this strong support, strong cushion means the trend on the daily chart has changed. For now, the trend on the daily chart is bullish, absolute bullish, right? But losing 564431 means that most likely the trend on the daily chart has changed. And at the same time, the weekly chart is now kind of 50-50 or 60-40. It is not absolute bullish. So the trend on the weekly chart will not change. Weekly chart will remain bullish, but it will not be absolute bullish. It will lose its bullishness in some manner. Okay. However, because it will still remain bullish through the weekly chart, this means that even if it comes down heavily but sustains at this strong support zone, then it can move up further. Then it is allowed to get a bullish retrace or a heavy bullish retrace back to 568870 and then to 5733, 5720. Okay. And for any more bullish movement to happen, for absolute bullish movement to happen, a movement or a sustained movement above this zone is required, or it's a compulsion. Otherwise that cannot happen. But now the question is that how will you judge whether S&P 500 is going to lose 5720 or will be coming down to 5688 or not? Simply look into the Dow Jones. Dow Jones yesterday on Friday, the trend line was at 42,300. Okay. If you are my Patreon community member, then check the first update. Okay, first and the second update. Okay. So this was the trend line. Now, if the Dow Jones is seen struggling at the trend line, it fails to give closing above the trend line. And remember guys, if you are new to my YouTube channel or if you are new to trading or the stock market, this thing, then closing is the most important thing in the stock market. Doesn't matter where the open was or what happened in the intraday. Okay, question is that where the closing was, because based on the closing, the next day movement, next week movement, next month movement, okay, it can be derived. Now, based on the closing, if you notice, so if the Dow Jones fails to give closing above the trend line, then there will be no trend line breakout. And if in this manner Dow Jones fails to give a closing above the trend line, this means that automatically the S&P 500 has also failed to clear the trend line. This will then automatically bring it down. This will force the Dow Jones to come down. Dow Jones will be coming down to 42,120. Okay, and in my last midweek update, I have disclosed this number. Okay, once the Dow Jones loses 42,120, this means that the S&P 500 has lost the 5720 and is probably somewhere around 5,700 or is very near to 5688. This is how, using the Dow Jones, you can track the movement in the S&P 500. Once the Dow Jones loses 42,120, this means that now the Dow Jones, now the S&P 500 is most likely somewhere around 5688 and is struggling to sustain around or at 5688. And that will then tell us whether 564431 will come into the picture or not. This means that the trend line in the S&P 500 on Monday, which will be around 5768, okay, is going to play a very important role to tell us whether the S&P 500 will move bullish or not. If it sustains above, if it clears 5768, okay, I'm not saying that just on Monday, maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday, whenever it clears and sustains above that trend line, fine. At the same time, Dow Jones is well above its trend line. Both of the indices, including the Nasdaq, is also above its trend line, and the entire market is now trading bullish or heavily bullish, and is allowed to go bullish. So 5790 and beyond. Okay. But as long as it is trading below 5768 or simply the trend line level will change on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday or so. If it is trading below the trend line, then there is no other option but to test the 5733, 5720 again and again. And if it remains around 5733 or 5720, or if it spends more time around this zone, chances will increase that it will lose the zone. Once it loses the zone, then 5, 6, 8 comes into the picture, including 70. But because next week there is nothing of much importance to the stock market other than the non-farm payroll data, but non-farm payroll data will be released on Friday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So 4 days are there. Okay, this means that in these 4 days, even if the S&P 500 comes down to 5688, then at the same time the Dow Jones will be around or above 142,120. Okay, so in that manner S&P 500 will be able to sustain, not a problem. Once it sustains, then there will be a reversal, as simple as that. But there will not be any bullish movement or any more bullish movement unless there comes a clear closing above the trend line, clear trend line breakout. This means that S&P 500 is going to trade in between the trend line and 568870 in the next week, at least until Thursday, because on Friday the volatility will increase because of non-farm payroll data, and accordingly the things will change. But whatever is going to happen or whatever will happen, I will keep you posted through these daily precise updates of the S&P 500 if you're my Patreon community member, and also through this the midweek update. So if you're looking for these the midweek updates, then you can either join my YouTube community, my YouTube membership, or you can go to my Patreon page, my Patreon channel, and you will or you can simply join this tier, which is all midweek update video. So you'll be getting the midweek update videos either through Patreon or through the YouTube membership. And but if you're looking for these daily precise updates of the S&P 500 every day, including the all midweek update videos, updates, movement, levels, zones, opportunities, then you can subscribe to either of these tiers. So guys, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not yet subscribed, and hit the bell icon, and hit like if you have liked this video. And if you have any questions that you want to ask, then please feel free to ask your questions through the comment section. So guys, this was my S&P 500 weekly technical analysis for the next week, which is from September 30th, which is Monday, to October 4th, that will be Friday.